Welcome into 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. They've been banking in Kentucky since 1895. They've got locations all across the Commonwealth, and they're conveniently located online at nbcbank.com. Homes are selling. My neighborhood is loaded. For sale signs everywhere. So come buy a house. Get your rate at Monticello Bank first. Visit them online, nbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Remember, FDIC, equal housing lender. I'm Nick Roush, and that's not Adam Luckett that you're seeing on the other side of the screen. No, this handsome young man is one. Is it? I would assume Jeffrey, right? Is it Jeffrey Drummond?
That's right.
Jeffolomew?
And I asked my family for years how to spell it. My wife always teases me because I never went by Jeffrey. So I said, is it R-E-Y, E-R-Y? I don't know.
Or it could be like yeah, it's not Geoffrey though, right?
No, it's not a G, Jeff.
Whew, thank you. Thank goodness. That would have been awful. But Jeff Drummond joining us today. Adam Luckett's out on vacation. Jeff has been, I don't know how long the merger has happened since, but you find all of Jeff's stuff on KSR Plus, which I believe, did that complete your circle of local media outlets that you've worked for over the years?
Yeah, I think I've got the career cycle for internet companies. People ask me, I still have people asking me if I'm working for one that I worked for 2 companies ago. and I'll say, no, it's been a little bit. But
did you ever have a Herald Leader byline?
I had a couple as an intern.
There we go. Yeah, so you really have. You touched them all.
I had the Richmond Register. I had the Jessamine Journal.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
Maybe even a couple up in Scott County. I'm trying to remember all the ones I've hit here and there. And of course, I had a long stint with the Harlan newspaper. But everything in Kentucky.
Everything Kentucky, and that's what we're here to talk about today. And a lot of that, though, it is great to have you because, me and Luckett, we aren't young guys, but, you were on the beat. You were covering the Cats when we were in the stands asking for a hot dog, right? Like when we were the little kid. So you've been around the block. You've seen a thing or two. And I think for a lot of people out here who are watching, listening right now on the Kentucky Sports Radio YouTube channel, this is their first real coaching search. This is their first real big coaching change. And even when the last one happened, I was writing my stories from the desk in the chapter room at the frat house, right? Like it was a little bit different time in my life. I wasn't maybe as plugged in as most people were when I was 21 years old. So I have not gone through the many coaching changes before to know, like, okay, this is what one feels like. Because let's be real, Jeff. New coach, that new coach smell, it's just like the new car smell, right? Like you haven't lost a game. You can't do anything wrong. But I am curious just how this Will Stein coaching change, sort of the early days of it, how that stacks up to some of the previous coaching changes that you've experienced from your time covering the Cats.
Well, the one thing it has in common with all of them is there's this immediate kind of injection of hope and excitement into the program. Doesn't matter who it is. I'm trying to think back to all the ones I've seen, and really when they transitioned to Guy Morris was the only time you really didn't have that because it was such an unusual case. Yeah. He was being promoted kind of from within, but all of the other ones carried with it this, okay, this is what's going to finally put us over the hump.
Even back to Bill Curry, the bathtub cup, I don't know if everybody had a bathtub cup in their house for where you got to put but ours was a stadium cup from Bill Curry's first year, and it was welcome your new head football coach, Bill Curry, and he had the big comb over. But Kentucky got Alabama's coach, right? Like that was the reverse Bear Bryant.
It's hard to explain back then what a big deal that was. It's like how in the world did Kentucky pull this off? I know it's viewed a little bit different in hindsight,
right?
And it's a complicated coaching career here. I'm still of the mindset that there is a world where Bill Curry could have made this work and won pretty big. I don't think he ever would have been challenging in the SEC. But with a little bit more consistency and cohesion with his coaching staff, I think they could have been really good here.
Because he kind of had a Mark Stoops with his offensive coordinators, right?
Almost every year.
Yeah, and Terry Bowden was one of them, if I'm not mistaken, because Freddie was a big fan of Terry Bowden.
Yeah, that's one that really hurt, and he never really was able to regain traction after that. And magnifying the problem was that they went from extremes to what they were looking for from one coordinator to the next. I mean, it was pretty wild.
But we aren't here to talk all about Bill Curry. What are maybe, because I do think when you look particularly at recruiting, right, like there was a time when Mark Stoops had the #1 recruiting class in the country, and it was at this similar time of the year where it's your first real momentum, your first real true class you get to put together, and everybody's buying into the hype. They're buying into the belief they're going to change the program around. So, like, I think the recruiting bump, but is there anything about Stein that maybe stands out more so from his predecessors that might give you this could work?
Well, one of the big differences is how quickly things have to progress now in recruiting. It's a totally different calendar with recruiting, especially in regard to visits and when guys are committing and it's even in some cases signing some of these deals in advance. To back then, Kentucky would get some guys that were kind of highly regarded and have that commitment from them. And the old saying that Joker Phillips used to say to me, there's no such thing as commitments until the fax machine starts making noises. That's a commitment to a program. And that happened, of course, after official visits during the season. And in a lot of cases, Kentucky started kind of getting beat up a little bit in some of these years, and they would lose some of the better guys that they had commitments from until that class wasn't as impressive at the end of the line. With Will Stein, it's been kind of crazy to me the amount of high-level elite guys that have jumped on board without him even playing a single game at Kentucky. It's amazing. 30-some year, what is he, 36?
Yeah. Is
that right?
36.
Hasn't coached a game anywhere, and these guys are just like, I want to be part of this. We don't even really know what this is yet, but Stein has shown enough during his other stops, and obviously Oregon being the most important, that a bunch of these guys are jumping on board. And I have never seen this many guys considered like in the top 100 or 200 four-star guys. Used to be, if you got 3 or 4 4-stars in a class at Kentucky, all right, we did a pretty good job. And then you relied on coaching up the 2s and 3s and making them 3s and 4s,
right?
Maybe even 5s. But now you're getting like legit guys who are coming in who are already close to that level of talent.
Yeah, and I want to say, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, and it can be complicated because, with one ranking service versus another, but I think they're up to 7 4-stars. And if you go just off of the Rivals rankings, there's even more. Like guys like Miles Brown, they don't have that 4th star from some other places. Maybe Reed Gherkin falls into that as well. But to your point, it is a different kind of clock we're working with. Even just from a year or 2 ago, Jeff, like this was the time where, the players, they would go on all of their visits and then they would sort of hunker down and then they would decide. Well, a lot of them, Kentucky had a weekend where only one uncommitted player was in attendance. Everybody else was committed. So, that part has made it different. And so now, instead of announcing, now we're at flip season. And flip season, it really showed up on Tuesday when Kentucky had their first major defection. And they also get some potentially good news from another player decommitting. But flip season has arrived. Ivian Lewis, the 4-star wide receiver from Virginia. It was a big recruiting win because you got him over Virginia Tech. He was from Richmond, Jeff. But then, they don't do the fax machines anymore. Joe Sloan told us last week on KSR that it's all e-sign now, no more fax machines. But in this case, it's kind of sounds like, all right, well, he really liked Kentucky a lot, but seeing some people around him who are like, oh, let's check out some other places. And he checked out South Carolina, and South Carolina said, here's a bunch of money. And then it admittedly, like, this is like, I don't count me as somebody who is like thinks this is bad, but it did feel so different to hear. Yeah, I think he really wanted to be here, but he also got an offer that he couldn't turn down. That UK was like, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to spend that sort of money on a freshman. And it's so weird to say that out loud. Like, it makes sense on like the dollar paper figure. Like, if you're going to spend big bucks, then you got to guarantee your rate of return. You got to, spend it on a transfer portal player, right? And recruiting's always been weird, but this one did feel a little weird to me. Just, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a different world, and I'm still getting used to it as well.
Well, it feels a lot more like pro football, and some could argue it is. Mm-hmm. It's just under a different level and name right now. But to put it in pro terms, Kentucky is being very smart with the way it allocates its funds, and they know that basically quarterback, offensive tackle, mm-hmm. corner, those are your big edge.
Yeah.
We've heard edge come up a lot with them. They know those are kind of the 4 money spots where if you're going to up the ante for somebody and try to keep them, he better be at one of those premium positions, or if he's at wide receiver, look like Calvin Johnson.
Right. Well, and conversely, you've seen them do this for other guys at those premium positions. Whether you say that about Jake Nara, now he wasn't committed elsewhere, but he was one of seemingly, I mean, they basically had 8 of the top 15 guys visit campus. He was their one. They went all in on him. They got him. But to your point, I think we had the opposite effect happen with Sean Fox, who he is the 4-star outside linebacker from Indianapolis that is set to announce his decision tomorrow evening. That would be Thursday night, depending on when you're listening or watching. 4-star kid who went to Clemson, and there was a weekend, Jeff, where like 6 guys that had official visits scheduled all went to Clemson. It was a big weekend for him, and a lot of them just committed on the spot. Those dominoes fall off the board. But Fox did not commit. He went to Kentucky the following weekend, and then after those 2 visits, then you saw, oh, crap, there's a Clemson prediction. It looks like he's going to go to Clemson. And then, I don't know, a few days later, now there's Kentucky prediction. So we may have seen the opposite effect for a different player at a different position where it actually works out. Now, we won't know for certain until he announces that decision tomorrow. But I think that does back up what you're saying. It is just it sounds like they're doing the right thing, but that is the kind of crummy part of all of this, is that we don't actually know. Right? No transparency whatsoever.
And probably never will. I don't think there'll come a point where they'll be able to enforce anything that mm-hmm. tells you what somebody's making
right
after the House settlement and all this stuff with NIL. But it will make people wonder in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, and but Fox isn't the only potential 4-star addition that could happen this week. I did mention a decommitment. Tyler Fryman, he had been committed to play baseball at Louisville since he was going into his freshman year of high school. Have you seen some of his baseball numbers, Jeff?
I haven't paid that close attention to the numbers, but I've seen some clips of him, and this guy can really fly.
I appreciated the Joe Danman, who covers the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area for the Fox TV station up there. He put his inside the park home run clip up next to like Ellie's, and they're very hard. Like they're very hard to tell the difference, right? Like you could see how they're when they watch Tyler Fryman say, oh, this kid can go. I don't quite understand why, Uncle Jeff and old Big Dog and their staff didn't, because he did camp at Louisville and he had crazy, like that's where he posted insane 40 and they offered him right away, but they didn't really push it for whatever reason. Whereas Kentucky, they have really pushed it hard. He got the official visit treatment with only other commitments last weekend. He strikes me, JD, as I'm trying to think of a good comp. It's okay. Here's my comp, and I'm going to end up using this a lot. The guy from Miami, Bain. They're clearly not like they're completely different players, but like in the NFL draft, people weren't sure about Bain. Whereas I was always like, this guy is going to play in the NFL for 12 years. He is going to have like 7 sacks a year and 18 tackles. Like he's maybe not like your Myles Garrett's or your Trey Hendricks, like the Watts of the world that are just going to put up these insane numbers. But I know that this guy, he's got a high floor. He's going to be really good for a long time. I kind of get a similar sense with Fryman, where I don't know if he's going to have the highest ceiling, but I feel like he's a multi-year SEC starter who is going to be a steady Eddie, gets 5 catches a game or so, and has like 700 yards a season. I feel very confident that he is going to be a very steady football player for many years if Cats ultimately get a commitment from him.
Yeah, if you put those numbers in the time machine and go back over the years for Kentucky, that puts him in elite company for Kentucky wide receivers. Yeah. If he can do that, and I think he's got some of those skills to him and physical qualities.
Well, and I was doing we'll be candid here. We'll be honest here. It was Sunday. I was scouring for posts, and I heard I saw an article. It was Andrew Coverdale, the pass game coordinator. And he talked about his old offense at Trinity, and their big thing is that they wanted to have finishers on their routes, which is, all right, when you're going through your progressions, let's give the quarterback something good to see at the end of the route, right? Like, here's a nice little option. If he's got time, he can find something. It feels like a Tyler Fryman type deal, right? Like, maybe he's not the first, like, long option, but here's a little shallow, just coming back towards the end of the route. Boom, let's hit him. Let's move the sticks, keep the drive alive. So I'm excited if Kentucky can ultimately get this commitment from Fryman. Sean Fox is on the board. And then the other big name on the board is Caden Moss. And, Jeff, he's going to be announcing his decision on Friday. Top 100 player from the state of Mississippi. If you getting a top 100 player from the state of Mississippi, recruited by Mississippi, that's another one of those things, to go back to what you said, that doesn't happen a lot here, if ever.
And if it's going to happen, this might be the right timing for it. Just after, you've had Lane abandoned ship, and Mississippi State's kind of trying to figure out what they're about and build some buzz down there. It's a perfect opportunity for Kentucky to swoop in there and maybe steal one.
And then, you might have a few extra dollars lying around now that IBM Lewis has moved on to South Carolina. So, you shuffle the deck around. You could add a top 100 offensive lineman. He's going to be announcing on Friday night at like 8 p.m., which is always my favorite time for recruits to announce their decisions. But that's sort of the latest on recruiting. It's weird that, I was just talking with some of the other guys trying to figure out what we're going to plan for July 4th. I'm so used to having just like, well, a couple kids will announce their decisions like that. That's all we really need for 4th of July. It's like, oh, wait. It's not really happening this year. It's weird.
Yeah, the whole thing's kind of thrown me off. I still miss, at risk of sounding like the old man shouting at the cloud in the sky, I still miss the old days and the build up to that big kind of national holiday, national signing day in February. Although, as I say that, I was always lobbying to have a second. Like I wanted to have one in the summer and one in the winter, and to kind of space them out for guys who wanted to go ahead and get it over with, let some guys sign in June or July, and then keep the big one, the main one for February, first Wednesday in February. But every year when that rolls around now, I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing something today. This is very odd.
Well, it turns out that if you give them the option, the coaches are going to just get it done sooner, and that's really what happened. Which I'm with you. I guess the part that I liked at least about February is that when the season ended, it was like, okay, everybody can now pay attention to this recruiting class. And, usually there was probably 4 or 5 guys you were still going after. Most of your kids were committed.
Yeah.
They'd have them for like an official visit weekend right beforehand. But like, that was the time where I got to write stories about the players who were committed. It was sort of a kind of get to know you. You really hyped it up. But now some people, they're going straight to the portal players, right? And they're scouting portal players. They don't care about the high school players. They just want to know more about this wide receiver from James Madison,
And that's only going to get progressed even further based on what Indiana just did. So I think that's the future.
That's the future, and we're going to be talking more about the future of Kentucky football and what's happening this season. But first, I do need to tell you about something kind of futuristic. ZenAI. You've seen plenty of AI products before. ZenAI, it's the home of vibe casting. It's a new way to capture and share conversations. So in the same way, vibe coding apps like Lovable and Claude, they made it possible for pretty much anyone to code, kind of build their ideas. This is what ZenAI is doing for content, where, hey, you may not know how to produce or cut things up or turn it into reels or a TikTok or whatever it may be. Well, ZenAI, they'll take care of it for you with the vibe casting. You can do it live as it happens, or just record your analysis for later. Humans are the talent. AI is the infrastructure. Vibes required, production optional. Don't sweat the production. Get in with vibe casting at ZenAI. ZenAI is currently in invite-only beta. Join the waitlist today for a chance at early access. Go to zen.ai to sign up today. All right, JD. Nope, I hit the wrong button. Okay. We know the roster. You've heard about it all spring. I guess I'll start there, because this is probably what I would ask if I had Stein or Sloan in front of me right now. What do you think you learned about the team that you didn't know going into the spring practices and all the conversations that followed?
Let's see. I think I would have to start. It's kind of the obvious spot that you do, but quarterback. Everybody wanted to know about Kenny Minchey. We really didn't know a great deal about him, even though he'd been at Notre Dame and was kind of a high-profile type guy. Didn't have a lot to go on, so really wanted to get a look at him a couple of times. And I think I came out of that thinking, okay, Kentucky is rock solid at the quarterback spot.
Which is such a weird sentence to say out loud. How many times have we said that on this YouTube channel?
That's where I was going to come in and say, I've been fooled though.
Yeah.
I don't think I am in this case. I just saw too many things indicate to me, man, they've got a guy here that just gets it and has the physical tools and no real limitations. Most of these other guys you look at in the past, you would say, yeah, but, or there was a big if he can do this.
Yeah.
If he could, Levis, it was always the accuracy part of it.
Taking a little bit off of his fastball, throwing a change up. Yeah.
I can't remember what we said about Leary, although he had a phenomenal spring. And I really thought, and he's gone on to land a roster spot in the NFL. So there's got to be some talent there. There must have been just something that didn't completely click.
Right.
But I think people were used to say maybe what they were doing in the playbook was a bit too much for what he was comfortable with, if I recall correct.
Yeah, there was some disconnect with him and Cohen as far as like the demands of it. The big if with him was just staying healthy, because he had all those injuries going into it, and he did at least stay healthy. The other things didn't click. I remember the injury thing being a talking point with Steven Johnson going into his second year because, I mean, obviously nobody was talking about the backup ahead of 2016, but he has this good year. He plays great in the Louisville game. And then you're like, well, but he is a smaller guy. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? And, he came out like Willis Reed in the Tennessee game and dove into the end zone. But, like, he was clearly he was dealing with stuff that whole 17 season. And then, the other ifs, too, like Terry Wilson was his best game was really his first. Like we were wanting him to build on that, but he never really got back to that from a passing standpoint after that Florida game.
I think people would have loved Terry Wilson forever for what he just did in the Florida game alone, and that deep ball to Lynn Bowden. That kind of secured his spot in a lot of people's minds. It doesn't really matter what happens from this point on, especially when you've got a team around you that can help you get to 10 wins and beat up on was that the year they beat Penn State?
That was Penn State, yeah. The one game that irritated the game at Texas A&M, Eddie got in his own head, and then I think he got in Terry's head. Where Eddie Grant was going to try to out Jimbo, and was like, "We're gonna." Granted that they had a great front seven, so I can understand the line of thinking is like running into the jaws of this defense is silly. We gotta hit them on the edges. But they asked Terry Wilson to do way too much, and he couldn't handle it in that game. And that, I mean, hell, they still got to overtime and had a chance to win, though. So, which I get that's a more of a bigger picture question. Like, we are going to have to adjust to having more rock solid quarterback play. That was never around in the Stoops era. But Stoops did raise the floor of this program, outside of the last year or two, where you felt pretty good that they were going to play close in most of these games. It was just, could they do enough to win? How do you think that formula is going to change with Stein, where I don't think a 14-point lead is going to be insurmountable, but I'm not really sure how – that part of me, there's that uncertainty. I don't know how to figure out. I don't know if you are closer to figuring out, or if you're just as perplexed as me.
I think it's going to be drastic in some ways and kind of shockingly similar in others. Like, a lot of people, I think right now have an impression that we're doing a Curry to Mummy type 180 deal, and they're going to be a little bit surprised by this. Will Stein really likes to run the ball.
Yeah,
and it's really important to him in this system. So it's not going to be quite a dramatic change overall, but it is going to be drastic, I think, in other ways for what the intent of each possession is going to be and how they use possessions and snaps and time is going to be different than the way Stoops did. Stoops wanted to hang around, wanted to keep it close and be the tougher team in the trenches in the fourth quarter and find a way to win. I think Stein is going to try to take a few more chances, and we're going to see both good and bad from that, especially with their defensive philosophy. I think people were kind of tired of the bend but don't break kind of Brad White system mentality, which put up some really good numbers when they had the right personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Bateman, I think sometimes they're going to give up some big plays, but they're going to try to trade those
for havoc. Yeah,
for a few havoc plays. It's kind of like to borrow from basketball when Rick Pitino first got to Kentucky and was using the crazy presses. He stopped doing that. People forget about midway through when he got more talent.
Yeah.
Did not all out press as much as he did in those early years. But he would always tell us, he's like, I'll give up a layup or two and make that other team think they're doing something, because it's going to create 10 layups or three-pointers for me, a give and take type of deal. And I think you're going to see some of that with the way Kentucky plays on the football field this year.
Well, and to go back to the first question I asked you, I think the part that I may have overlooked going into the spring, and it was a bit of a realization. This defense should be pretty good, right? Like they kept pretty much all of their good players. I mean, Cam Dooley transferred to Florida, but like, I mean, for the most part, the guys that they wanted stayed, and then they added to that. I think it will. No offense, but like when you're going up against this offense in practice, it should make your defense a little bit better at covering. And so I think the big question I had was just, and there's still quite a bit of mystery around exactly what Jay Bateman's defense is going to look like on a down-to-down basis. But I do feel like it's going to be a lot better than people anticipated because they're going to be, like, they're talented in the trenches. They have NFL players in the trenches. And it seems like they really like their play in the secondary. I mean, they've got the most experienced safety group in the SEC. They bring in Sykes, who they believe can level up well from Western Carolina. And Teron Nichols is one of those guys who's like, it's there, but it just hasn't always clicked for him. Injuries, I think, are a part of that as well. So, like, I think they're going to be much better than what people anticipate, as long as they don't get run on. And a lot of that's going to come down to how quickly those linebackers develop. And it might not be something that we see instantly, but as the season gets longer, those guys should get better and better. It's just, you can't have what was that game? I guess it was Auburn a couple of years ago where like they just anytime they turned around and handed the ball off, they were gashing them, right? Like we just can't have these young guys getting out of their run fits that easily. Kentucky has some really excellent linebacker play for a long time. That kind of went away towards the end. Need to have that back this year for that defense to click.
And I think they're set up to do that. I'm really comfortable with what they have up the middle, and people always talk about that. Your interior defensive line, your inside linebackers, and your safety play. I think Kentucky's got all of that taken care of. I'm confident in that. The guys I'll be watching are the edges.
Yeah.
Need to see if those guys can, live up to the potential there. There's a lot of talent.
Yeah.
With let's see, Works and Callan in particular, and you got Green coming back.
Yeah.
But we need to see those guys put it all together and be impact type players to make the whole defense go. If they can get the edges and maybe develop one more corner. I really like what they've got at all the other spots, and especially that group that Anwar has. You've referred to them a couple of times. He's got some dudes to work with on the D line.
Yeah, and there's a reason that Stein wanted to keep him, right? Like he's done he is a great example of the sort of old school of coaching him up, but they've also recruited well in those interior spots. I mean, I remember the first big prospect from Mississippi that Summerall got. They had Josiah Hayes, they had the Justin Edwards. They've got some talented guys in there, and now they got Chops, which he's not Matt Elam big, but he is in that same where you just kind of marvel at how big this dude is when you see him.
Yeah, and the way he moves at that size, you would think it would just be kind of stationary, stand there and just pull things up and let the other guys work. But we saw him in a couple of opportunities this spring really pick the feet up and moving around and get some pressure on the quarterback. I didn't think that was going to be part of his game, and remains to be seen when they get into real games, right, if that's going to be the case. But man, if they can get another guy from that spot, putting pressure on the quarterback, opens a lot of things up.
Yeah, I think, as scary as some, I'm not a quarterback, so I can't speak for them. But as scary as some guy peeling off the edge behind you is, at least you can still see in front of you. I would think that when that pocket collapses up in the middle, that's just got to be an absolute nightmare fuel. Okay, we talked about what we've liked. Is there what areas of concern do you do you have about this roster, about this team, just going into year one? What's the one that sort of, when people are trying to talk Jeff Drummond into saying this is going to be an 8-9 win team, what's sort of holding you back from saying that this is going to be a banner year in year one for Will Stein?
Well, number one, they're going to be relying on a lot of guys that have an asterisk with injury history.
Yeah.
And those guys have to prove that they can get over that and stay on the field and be productive. You've got that popping up at the running back spot and the wide receiver spot in some areas. And those are two areas. The wide receivers, to me, are still a big mystery. You feel like you got your quarterback now, and they've got an army of tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't mention Willie Rodriguez yet, but
yeah,
he could be a superstar. Those wide receivers are all kind of question marks for me at this point.
Yeah, the one I was talking with somebody on KS Board yesterday. Mentioned it. You got I don't know what's ruffling by your computer, Jeff. Something was ruffling around. I don't know if it was a piece of paper or what. I've kind of come to the conclusion that DJ Miller just has to be awesome, and he was during the spring, I think, for all intents and purposes. But if he's really good for you, if he turns that potential and develops into this steady high quality SEC starter, then I think everything else can be fine, right? I don't know if I'm willing. If that happens, it makes everything else so much easier. And I think it's also the smallest if that because you mentioned the asterisk or the ifs or whatever. This one feels like the one that takes the least amount because we saw him be really good as a freshman who was dealing with soft tissue stuff in a limited offseason. And hell, even going into the season. So hopefully this guy has learned how to take care of his body, recover better, because that's what a lot of it's about, right? It's making sure you're in the ice tub, doing all the stretching. I could see how a freshman wouldn't be ready to handle all that. If he stays healthy and then just continues, it felt like every time they showed one of those highlights, Jeff, it was DJ Miller was on the receiving end. So if he does well, then I'm not as worried that because asking Nick Anderson to be the guy he was the year with Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma feels like you're asking too much, right? You can be good, but asking him to be that feels like you're asking a lot. Shane Carr, I think, can be awesome down the road, but it's going to be year one in the SEC, and it might take a little while to get adjusted and acclimated to all that. And he's another guy who's pretty small. And then you got all these freshmen who, like Kenny Darby, look great in flash, but he's still a freshman. So that's if DJ Miller hits, then I feel so much better because the other part, like you mentioned too, Jeff, they already got a ton of tight ends, and Jason Patterson has shown that he can catch the ball pretty good out of the backfield as well. So DJ Miller, you get right, and I feel a lot better about that kind of question mark at receiver.
What would you put the odds at of Willie Rodriguez leading this team in receptions?
So to do that, I would have to kind of list out the players in order. And
I guess when you list them out in order, second question, where would the first running back fall in that pecking order? Because I think you're going to see them hit those guys with a lot more passes than we've seen in a long time.
The other part, too, is, I guess, the question about who is going to be a slot receiver or not. Because we saw
the staff pushes back on that a little bit. They don't want us kind of labeling any of these wide receivers.
Well, and part of it is because they put Rodriguez in the slot. So I would put it plus 350. But I think that would still be the first choice. And I would have maybe DJ Miller at, 4-1, Shane Carr plus 450. I feel like it's kind of close. But the part that's hard about the running backs, Jeff, is it goes back to your initial point about the injury concerns. Because that That's my biggest one. Is like they're gonna take a lot of hits. Top two guys got a ton of injury history. I mean, you moved to safety over there to play the spot, so like, I mean, and I mean, Colby Smith was like straight up doing the interview challenge to Jason Patterson too. So like that, if you said all running backs, like just where would you combine them all? I think the running back position might be fourth on the team in receptions in total, but I don't know what that committee is going to look like at all.
And whether it includes Carter could be a big factor in that, because they talked about him having these natural instincts as a receiver out of the backfield, and that makes sense with his with high school career. And I'm kind of curious if they're going to give him a legit shot to play a little bit on both sides of the ball. I don't think it's going to be anything close to what we saw with Oklahoma and what Dion did out there. But maybe if you pick your spots here and there, maybe out of necessity at running back, if some of those injuries should pop up again. But that was another thing that stood out to me about spring, especially after a spring game, is just how natural Carter looked at that spot, and how I felt like it's important for him to get that kind of athlete on the field somewhere.
Yeah, it's the just get your best player of the ball and just let him, you'll figure it out, right? Positionless basketball. Like, I don't care. Just he's got to be on the floor and get some touches. And I think, to your point, that he did enough for Stein. They'll probably give him a shot. And if you look too, over the years, the sort of distribution of touches and carries and stuff, it's his top two do a lot of sharing, right? And if we know anything about those top two with Baxter and Barnes, I mean, one of them is going to miss a month, right? It's like, well, I feel like I can almost budget that, that one of those guys is going to miss at least a month, maybe more. So, if they can't get it to, if it isn't clicking for Patterson the way they want it to, why not? But it does make me worry some. At least I do. I mean, this offensive line, I guess that's my question for you. Like how good can it be? And do you think maybe people might be getting expectations too high after we saw, the way that like the group that blocked for Lynn Bowden would just mow down opponents, right? Like, we might have been a little spoiled in the way that those dudes used to maul opponents.
And ever since then, we've been waiting for kind of this next edition of the Big Blue Wall and hoping it would come around. I think personnel-wise, this is probably the closest, if you're just looking at raw talent, since that time. But I know there's still some question marks even with this group. The staff seems to feel really good about them. We didn't get to see enough this spring, though, in my mind, to say for certain.
Yeah,
I think they can be that kind of, Joe Moore or bullies up front.
The blue-white thing messed with us too, where, you're not playing your first five. So, like, I think Olas is going to be in there at guard, but I'm not, 100%. Like, are they going to do something? Like that. So there are those kind of questions there on how and where exactly everybody plugs in. And I do think the other part of it too is those guys back in the day, it was fun to watch them because they would just drive block the crap out of people and they were just pushing them down the line. Whereas this skill set is a little bit different. Like Colton Price looks like a guy who can pass that, like that guy looks like he knows how to create a pocket. Same with Lance Hurd. And also that guy moves so well pulling that they're going to have to find ways to get him moving down the line of scrimmage, going out in the screen game. So I think that's the other aspect to it is even if they are really good, it's going to just look different. because you're going to have a quarterback dropping back. All right, well, what's the number? Attempts per game for Kenny Minchie?
30.
30?
30.5.
Man, I'm wondering. So let me just look real quick on what the SEC average was last year, because we don't have attempts per game pulled up. Dang it. So Ty Simpson threw it almost 500 times in 15 games. That's an extreme. But 30, I don't want to say it seems like the 4, but that might be a decent number, because I think another thing he does move pretty well, and I think those legs will, they might call 35 passes, but not all of them are going to result in a forward pass, if you will.
And I think some of it will depend on how these games play out. We've talked a lot about how tough the schedule is. Will Kentucky be playing from behind a lot, or will the defense be able to hold them and keep them in games where they don't have to put a guy in his first year as a starting quarterback, dropping back to throw it 40 plus times? I don't think that's a situation that anybody really wants to see if they can avoid it. But I don't know. I'd have to dig into the numbers a little bit more, but I feel like
it feels like a good number.
If you're around 32 a game for him, I think that would make a lot of sense and would tell you that you're getting what you want out of the run game, which is going to be the big key to, whether or not they're going to have to throw it more.
Yeah, and the other part, too, that we have to remember, Kentucky should be running more plays per game this year than they did in the past. My math is bad here, but it was, I don't know, mid-70s per game, low 70s-ish.
Yeah.
Feels like they'll be closer to 80 in most of these contests, if not more.
I think we boost that number up if that's the case. A little bit naturally, maybe by 5 there if they can get to that point. But we still need to see it. That's the big
thing.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the exciting things going into the season is we're going to see real quick in game 2. How a lot of this might stack up going forward.
There also is, just the excitement of the unknown, because we kind of knew the Stoops formula, right? Like it didn't. We figured it out, and we kind of sat in it for a decade. It's going to be different. It's going to be exciting. You mentioned boost, though, Jeff. I have a question for you. Have you been into the World Cup action at all? Are you a World Cupper?
Yeah, I've watched a lot more this year than I have in the past.
Well, you can get in the action and get some boosts too with our friends at BetMGM.
There we go.
I don't know if I want to boost Canada like it says on the screen. We don't like the Canadians, but you can use a parlay boost token when you play with BetMGM on the World's game. BetMGM, whether it's parlay boost, whatever it may be, they've got all the different boost tokens to make sure that you're getting some extra juice on all of these games in the World Cup. I know the one, too, they had one for, like, goal scorer, so you could bet a goal score. If you didn't win, you got your money back. It was great. Great offers. They got plenty of them on BetMGM. We've got an offer for you as well. When you sign up and use bonus code ON3, you're going to get up to $1,500 back for that first-time bet. So it's pretty simple. All you do is you use that code ON3. You make your first bet. If it wins, well, you win. If not, you get it back in bonus bets up to $1,500 when you sign up using that bonus code ON3 at BetMGM. Make this a legendary summer. Make it one for the history books with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In the U.S., call it 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offers for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. I think my big issue is I just don't know how to handle a World Cup game where it doesn't matter if we win or lose.
That's a weird position to be in, isn't it? I'm a lot more concerned about my family's people, the Scots. I think they've got Brazil. They're kind of my second team I've been rooting for all along. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Scotland, and I don't have a whole lot of hope in them advancing.
When you list out all of the countries that are in the World Cup, I don't know if a fan base was built less for Miami than Scotland. Like they just.
I told my wife today, I said, I hope they brought sunscreen.
Yeah. I mean, the other part too, there's going to be some guy that just dehydrated, overheated, not used. The beers don't flow as easily when it's 90 and sunny out. Just hits a little different.
I've never associated the bagpipes with Miami in any way. So it's an interesting clash of cultures down there. But hopefully Miami will have enough liquids to keep them satisfied.
Yeah, keep them well lubricated. All right, are you feeling froggy enough to pick one of these big upsets this year? Is there a team on the schedule that maybe it's not an outright upset, but maybe you are more confident than some people that this Kentucky team will be able to hang with?
I'm cheating here. I've got to look and remind myself who we have.
I mean, it changed. It's different year to year now. It used to be you just knew, but now it's a crapshoot.
I always laugh at this road game at Texas A&M too. They've been in the league 13 years now. 14 years.
Still haven't been to Lexington.
Otherwise, that one would be a really, really good one that sticks out to me. What about South Carolina on October 3rd? I think they're going to go into that as an underdog unless they, shock the world against Alabama or maybe upset Texas A&M. They'll probably be an underdog in that one. I don't think South Carolina's talent level is overwhelming, and I like that one. Give me October 3rd and the Gamecocks, even though it's on the road, and that goes against kind of traditionally. I've not liked to pick the Cats on the road, but I'm going to be optimistic here and think that's the one.
I'm similar in that if Kentucky played Tennessee at home, I would go back to that well. That I tell myself I'll never go back to again, but here I am just drinking it up just to rip my heart out. But that Mark Stoops clearly had a Josh Heupel. Like he just couldn't figure out Josh Heupel. He had no idea what to do with it. Whereas I think stylistically, it's going to flip the series to much closer. Now, will Will Stein be able to get it done and have enough ammo to do it in year one at Neyland Stadium? I don't know. But it feels like that. I think we're going to – Stoops always played Georgia close but couldn't do anything with Tennessee unless he got into a shootout with them. I think it's going to be kind of cattywampus with Stein. Now, I don't know what Georgia's kind of weird this year. They've got Stockton back, but they aren't the traditional Kirby teams that Stoops would get in the mud and fight with all the time. So that might be different. But point being is Will Stein should be able to scheme him up right there with Heupel, where we could have some really fun, intense rivalry games with Tennessee in the near future.
Yeah, especially with the way the Cats are recruiting. If they can recruit these guys and retain them and develop and continue to have success in the portal, they can kind of close that talent gap a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's not overwhelmingly talented compared to Kentucky. We saw a lot of games during that stretch where you just left it thinking, man, I thought Kentucky was the better team, and they still lost.
Right.
I think that part of it's going to switch, like you're saying, to where I don't think Kentucky's ever going to really dominate them, but maybe get to a point where you can win every other year. Tennessee might win a couple, and then you win again, but not any of these long streaks to where they're beating you 4 or 5 years in a row.
Well, I mean, we probably said that about Florida, though. Kentucky's won 4 out of 5 against them. So
I never thought I'd live to see that happen. Admittedly, you said earlier Tennessee's one of those you just know better not to pick. I probably 10 years ago I said I'm never picking Kentucky to beat Florida until I see it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And there were years where we thought, hey, they're probably better, and it's at home. And I said, no, they got to do it. And I'm getting that way with Tennessee again.
I know. And
I need to see it before I can pick it.
Well, and that's why Will Stein here. He's here to reverse that juju. I do just briefly on Florida. That seeing the way that people are talking about Florida, their schedule, and you kind of see. I mean, the credit to Summerall, he got like all those young talented players to stay. He got Jaden Ball back, the receivers, Dallas Wilson. Is it Trey Wilson or no? Vernell Brown's back. Like they got most of those guys back.
Dudes.
Yeah. And that just feels like that is a Jared used to say, or Jared Lorenzo used to say you would define your season based on the Louisville game back when the Governor's Cup. Like if you beat Louisville, you knew you could have a good year. The Florida game might be the year, like the litmus test game this year, where if you can get that, then you're going to feel really good about your year. But if you don't, it's just going to be tough because, like you said, I mean, winning at South Carolina has to happen, and there's uncertainty on how good they'll be because of Lenore Sellers. Like, what's that? New offensive coordinator. There's A&M, LSU, Bama. Like, it's not easy. It's tough sledding.
I think we're going to see a little bit more edge from the Gators now too with their head coach, and especially in that game.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a high intensity game where both teams, both coaches, the staffs. There's a bunch of former Kentucky guys on that staff now. That's going to be real interesting to see if it injects a little bit more spice back in. And it's funny to even say those words. Like, I feel like Kentucky has played them so well in recent years that it's almost taken the edge off of it. It's like, yeah, we beat Florida, of course.
Yeah. That was last year, even when they had the interim head coach, I just had to repeat consistently. It is never, we can never take beating this team for granted. You cannot. Why? It was we had to deal with Spurrier forever. Okay. Like that. We're not going to take these for granted. Let's get some questions from KS Board. We can't let our KS Boarders down. If you aren't on there, your last chance to read all of Jeff Drummond's great content on KSR Plus for 50% off with the summer sale. It's today. It ends at midnight. So if you're thinking like, do I want to do this 50% off a year? Hop on the KSR Plus train now. Come hang out with us. Come see all of Jeff's great content on KSR Plus. And Jeff, all right. Will Stein said he's tinkering, thinking about got some ideas for the walkout song. Jeff Drummond gets handed the sticks. What is JD's walkout song at the Krog?
Walkout song, man. That's right in my wheelhouse too.
Yeah, people don't realize Jeff Drummond, big music guy. When I pull up to the Krog at the facility, I see there's different hats, whether it's a Sturgill or a Stones or a. You had one. I had to ask you. It was the most obscure. What was the Led Zeppelin thing? It was like a coded message or something.
Oh yeah, it was the kind of the Celtic glyphs that spell out. Yeah. Most people they say Zoso is what it looks like.
Okay,
but they're like a Celtic symbol representing each member of the band, and it looks like almost wore that cap today.
That's how into music JD is. So this is right in your wheelhouse. You get to select. What's it going to be?
Oh, wow. Walkout has to pump people up, doesn't it? Yeah, it's got to fire people up. We can't come out to Careless Whisper like we do at Rupp Arena.
It's got to set the tone, too. Like, I think you could – I don't know how much Hell's Bells would fire people up, but, like, you're ringing the bell and you're getting the guitar riff. Like, it is a little slow, but it does kind of set the tone, right?
I could go with Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine.
There you go.
an absolute banger. Got a special place in my heart for Soundgarden, Outshined.
Okay. You're hitting the 90s over the head.
Yeah. 90s had a lot of good power riffs.
Yeah.
So I would pick between one of those, and I would probably lean towards Bulls on Parade because it's absolute full-on aggression. And if you can't get fired up coming out of the tunnel to that, you need to check your blood pressure.
I do like the Stein's talking about having the team in the actual facility for the 30-minute break and then walking through. I kind of like to go back to Led Zeppelin. I kind of do like if they're walking over slowly to have kind of Cashmere, the like that kind of has a slow kind of build up too that I wouldn't mind either.
This has been a long running joke between me and a bunch of friends dating back to the early days of John Madden football.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend that would play, and he would refuse to throw a forward pass. If he felt like he had to throw a forward pass, he would concede defeat. And this is when, to date myself here, Barry Ward and Christian Okoye were the running backs, and he'd take the Chiefs every game. It was like cheating because they would get 3.5 yards every time they touched it, and they'd bring out that chain, and the ball would stick and just barely pass. But he would joke after a while. He would just play Led Zeppelin Cashmere and run the ball the entire game. And it was just that methodical da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. So we've laughed all these years anytime when Stoops would get in that mode and they
play Cashmere.
Ogre Field ought to play Cashmere while play is being run.
Oh man, that's great. Okay, here's a good one. Who, if you had to name an offensive MVP outside of Kenny Minchie, who you got?
Willie Rodriguez, but in my heart of hearts is always thinking about offensive linemen and how they get overlooked.
Yeah.
In this situation. So let me pick one. I should know off the top of my head. It would be Colton Price.
Yeah.
Maybe because he's
some tone setter.
Yeah, he's kind of everything revolves around him in the middle. If things go as well as we think it could go with the offensive line, and they do become that kind of big blue wall 2.0, maybe it's Colton Price.
I don't think that's a terrible pick. I'm kind of with you, like, especially from when you hear him talk, like just his command, the leadership is definitely there. But I am kind of with you that Willie Rodriguez is just, I mean, he's straight out of Central Casting as one of these tight ends. And he could, with this offense, he can elevate his game. I mean, you don't like to say Kenyon Sadiq because that guy's a freak, but I could see Willie having a huge year and then getting picked 30th next year in the draft. So, which, by the way, is it Minnesota next year for the NFL? When are they going to bring it to the Steel City? I feel like Three Rivers is begging. Like that's was that this year?
That's where they had it this year. They broke all kinds of records for.
Okay, I admittedly wasn't very locked into the draft this year. When it was weird for Kentucky, and I was in derby mode already. Okay, all right. Well, that's why I was so front of mind. I was so present front of mind, just because it just happened there. Oh man, I might be losing my damn mind. Hey, let's see. We got one more here. I want to address something briefly on here. And I'll write about it on KSR Plus too, because people are asking about flipping Jihad Brown and Seneca Driver. Those are the two blue chip pass catchers from the state of Kentucky. I think there is a possibility at some point that could happen. But in my opinion, Jeff, a lot of the conversation right now is just because recruiting is slowing down and there's always been a what's next. Well, we've kind of hit the end of the road and there's just no other what's next. Will Stein has said on the record that his best recruiting is what he does on the field. If they were to pull off a flip of either of those players right now, then they would have to do it monetarily. And for what? What? Like what? Just so people could get happy in June? You would be overspending, potentially cutting off your nose to spite your face, in the sense of losing guys that you could get as transfer portal acquisitions because you just spend it all on freshmen. It just, I think that my prediction for both of those guys, Jeff, is, Alabama or the LSU game, we're going to find out on like a Saturday morning that one of those guys is coming to the game and they've got their eyes on it. And, maybe Kentucky pulls off a big upset and they got a chance to actually do the flipping. They pitch them, hey, see how good this offense is? Well, we need you to take it to another level. That's how I see those potential flips happening. Talking about it right now, I just don't feel like it's any smoke is real smoke. I think it's just people talking because you're kind of running out of things to talk about. Recruiting's ending sooner than we expected, and we've still got 70 days until the season starts.
I wouldn't anticipate any possibilities like that until you're into the season, and maybe you have some chances though to change minds with the driver. If you go out to Oklahoma and play well, and your tight ends catch a ton of balls.
Oh yeah,
that's about a dozen. Willie Rodriguez puts on a good show,
and not just Willie. The staff believes that Henry Boyer's a draft pick. So,
I think at one point and it was kind of borrowing from Vince Marrow's playbook, but at one point they mentioned all of those guys they think could eventually be pro.
Michael Skinner too is one of those guys that I saw at a camp and I was like, who is this guy? He looks really good. And then I was, I forgot about him. Like they still had him on the roster.
And I'm kind of shocked that he's still here.
Yeah.
As big a deal as he was when he signed with them and really hasn't been able to get on the field a whole lot yet, to retain him and get this kind of offensive system where they'll be able to use his abilities. Kind of like he reminds you of those guys at Oregon a little bit.
Yeah.
With some of his skill set.
In the way that, talking with somebody close to the program, having the older guys, I think, is a real benefit to him. It's sort of he's got two really good anchors to lean on and sort of take the pressure off him so he can just kind of focus on him, grow into his game, and then when the time comes, just be that guy. I've always likened it to that year that I say at Cummings had with Liam Cohen, where, they didn't have a whole lot of receivers, a lot of quality pass catchers. They move him down to tight end, kind of create mismatches there. I think you could see some of those with Michael Skinner coming this fall.
Maybe even in the backfield.
There you go. That'll solve the backfield problem.
12 and 13 personnel. We might have to change the name of the show there.
Yeah. Well, 22 maybe. Two backs. Well, why the heck not? This has been a lot of fun, JD. I appreciate you hanging out today. Let's not be strangers. We can hang out some more on the YouTube channel, huh? Why not?
All right. Yeah, let's do it. Anytime. I look forward to it in the summer times too, when things slow down like that.
Yeah. And the Reds are, they're not. They're doing the normal Red summer thing. Just when you want to have something to look forward to, they just let you down.
Let me throw this at you. The Reds have 2 NL Central wins this season. We're close to the midpoint of the season. Are the Bengals going to win more divisional games than the
Reds?
They can only win 6 unless you count the playoffs. But the Reds are sitting on 2, and if you take those out, you can't take them out. But they've got a pretty decent team against the rest of the world. But they can't beat Milwaukee to save their lives, and they can't beat Pittsburgh either. So,
which is just a wild thing to say out loud. I mean, they're the Pirates, for crying out loud. So, yeah, and the Bengals actually should be pretty good. So, who knows? Maybe Joe Burrow. It's give him a baseball jersey.
Probably so. As a Steelers fan, I'm not hoping for them to exceed that, but I have to face reality.
Yeah.
Give them
Well, hey, at least we got Myles Garrett out of the league. So one less guy to end Aaron Rodgers' career, which, we don't have to get into that today, Jeff. We'll save that for another day. We'll get out of here, but appreciate you hanging out with us. Appreciate all of you all sticking by with us here on the KSR YouTube channel. Adam Luckett, he'll be back from vacation next week. We'll podcast sometime before the holiday weekend. Until then, he's Jeff Drummond. I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.